Hey, how's it going, everyone? Let's take a moment to discuss observational and social learning. There's a psychologist who goes by the name of Albert Bandura. Mr. Albert Bandura, he was known for many great things, many experiments and studies, one of which is really popular is the Bobo doll experiment. Here's a link if you're interested. The reason I'm providing you this link is because it has a direct connection with the other things I want to talk about in this short lesson. You've participated in a reading, you've talked to the expert about Albert Bandura, and now let's take a moment to discuss his 5 conditions for observational learning. You see, Albert Bandura believed that an important part of learning was the connection that a learner has to a model and their ability to observe and reflect on the things that they have observed. So let's take a moment to discuss these 5 conditions. Condition number 1 is paying attention to the model. If I'm a race car driver and I get into a classroom full of kids that want to also become race car drivers, they love the subject and they're very interested and engaged. Because of the connection that I have with the participants, it has a direct impact on their ability to pay attention and learn. So in order for us to learn better, even in settings where we may not have this same connection, we have to be creative and try to find ways that we can make this connection with our audience, as it is an important part of paying attention and condition 1 of Bandura's observational learning theory. Condition number 2 is remembering what you've observed. And one of the best ways to remember something that you've just observed is through reflection. Take some time to go back and revisit. And you can also use this moment of reflection to make these model participant connections and filling in the gaps where maybe during reflection the participants exchange experience with each other, and maybe you as a subject matter expert can also fill in and help them to remember things by using this reflection moment. And that's condition number 2, reflection. Condition number 3 is reproducing the behaviors that you've just observed. So activities are great for reproducing behaviors, and once you do these activities, which in adult learning, and depending on the subject, it's easier than in some areas, we can manipulate activities and scenarios and problem-based exercises and project-based exercises to really reinforce that reproduction of the behaviors that the participants have just observed and have reflected on. So that's condition number 3, is reproducing behaviors. And another thing to think about when you do reproduce behaviors, because there is a direct link to the senses, you see, you hear, you taste, you smell. These are the senses that help you to learn. And when you target them in your learning design, and you target the imaginal representational system for where you get your vivid retrievable images, if you can do this as a model, if you can do this in learning, and you can target also the verbal representational system, which are the words that are used to describe the behaviors. If you manipulate this in the correct way, then reproducing what you learned is a little bit easier. The next thing's a little bit difficult, of course, which is motivation. So how can we increase our participants' motivation? And this is a lot easier said than done. There's many a times where people come into learning environments and they really aren't interested in what's going on in the classroom. How do we get their interest? Well, you only really have a limited ability to get their interest, but the best way to do this is through the model participant connection. Find a way to connect with your audience, and it's strongest when your perceived behaviors lead to some kind of reward. So if your learners see some kind of reward that they can reach by participating in the class, then this will increase their motivation. This is one way to do it if they're not naturally interested in the contents which are being discussed. And the last one, And the most important one, because if we speak only for adults, we know that a large portion of what we learn is experiential. Then this is where practice comes in. And practice can be on-the-job experience, activities, follow-up activities, and these are all important parts of Bandura's observational learning theory. Just wanted to share something else with you too. Here's a link. You can check it out. I'll also post it in the Google Classroom. This observational learning theory, we now know that mirror neurons exist in our brains, and we're only beginning to turn the page to really see what happens with these mirror neurons and how they react in certain situations. But we can back Mr. Bandura's claims with neuroscience now. We know that when we observe things and when we recreate things, we know that these mirror neurons are firing off. So it is an effective way to learn. Hope you found this informative, and let's keep the discussion going. All right, now it's time for our assignment for the observational learning activity. Pick a topic relating to your role today. You've just read and watched the video and the lessons about observational learning and social learning. Think about how in your role today, from what we've discussed so far and what you've added into your TPAC assignment, think about how you can create an experience for that topic that can be made more observational. Think about how you could layer your technology in and create this observational experience using the CK, what you're planning to teach, the content knowledge, the TK, the technological knowledge, and how can we make it in a more observational way? So here's what I want you to do. Step 1, in your discussion post in the Google Classroom, identify the topic and how it's being taught today. Step 2, share your thoughts on how it could be made more observational by layering in technology. So if, for example, in step 1, you're just using a picture with a lecture, how can you make that differently? How can you make it more observational using technology as an alternative to using a picture with a lecture? And step 3, with your new idea, what's a good way you can make a model connection with your learner? So we know that it's important the connection the model has to the learner. So how can we create some kind of way that we can make this better connection, this better observational activity with using technology? How can we meet the 5 conditions of observational learning with this activity? And then number 4, read over the other discussion posts in the class and offer some thoughts and advice. I'll do the same thing, and I'm sure we'll learn a lot from each other in the process. All right, cool. Let's get started.